Chapter 1. Captain Belasko. The year 1640, Habsburg Spain now entered into its twilight, battle-weary from nearly 30 years of conflict, made decadent by glut of pillaged treasures stolen for more than a century. The imperial army already destined to suffer a crippling defeat by the French at the Battle of Rocroi. King Philip IV, heir to the throne before his time, lives lavishly, pursuing dilettantish whims, lacking awareness of this critical crucible in history. The once great spirit of the revived new Roman Empire slips daily into decline, spending less money to build ships and to finance armies. Spain has recently suffered its greatest loss through conspiracy of nature and maneuver of better strategy by the English fleet off the French coast of grapevines. The near decimation of the most powerful naval armada of the world leads ultimately to forfeiture of dominance in the long-held Straits of Gibraltar. Even before signing the Treaty of the Pyrenees at the end of the 30 Years' War, Portugal will break its allegiance to neighboring Spain, allowing the Basques to the north more autonomy, and thus eventually shake free the yoke of conscription. The Basque-built Libertad is a seaworthy vessel, top-of-the-line galleon, her captain a man of reputation, with seasoned experience and jaded principles. It is just another routine voyage. Just another crossing of wilderness ocean separating world continents, a vessel commissioned to replenish the coffers of a complacent empire. This stoic vessel bearing insignia of a Spanish crest departs the port of Veracruz and skirts along the northern coast of Brazil loaded with the usual hold of minted gold coins and silver bullion. Docking at Portuguese harbor of Port Seguro, renowned for exotic pleasures and slave trade, something special added to the manifest. A thing almost human held fast by links of unbreakable chains. Reports state that the savage demon-possessed shaman captured near the mouth of the Zinc River to the north, reputed to be direct descendant of a local royal family. He is a terrible monster in the captain's mind, a caged beast standing nearly 7 feet tall with a misshapen face and eyes of a dangerous animal. Such evil merchandise should not be transported to the civilized world. Captain Belasko breathes to himself. He is only the appointed master of this vessel, a commissioned officer with an assigned task. Therefore, he orders the caged creature stowed in the ship's hold along with rest of the other cargo. By now the new Americas taken for granted, thought of only as an endless resource of free-flowing wealth to fund European appetite for war, lavish estates, and things curious. No longer satisfied with mere riches, the new Spanish elite have become preoccupied with mysticism, collectors of artifacts and creatures embodied with fabled black magic. Jacob Belasko, last captain of the fated ship Libertad, stares into zenith of the horizon, as mast of a dark angel into the gulf of time. His visage a burnt canvas after what seems a lifetime forgotten to the elements. Only the face of a stranger reflects back, someone once he might have known, now trapped in a clouded window pane on his poop deck. An image of hard countenance etched with deep wrinkles that blend into the rigging of his ship. Was it that long ago he stood on the shores of dry land at foothills of the Pyrenees? How long has it been since he kissed the breast of a woman or touched the heads of children? How long ago since he saw the house built by his father, or visited the graves of his parents? All gone now, too long for him to remember, and forever long ago, all only shadows now, all glimpsed in a vision, as birds scattered in the wind at sunset, slipping into a darkened horizon never witnessed again. His wife no longer his wife, but married to another. His younger brother's children now grown with wives and children of their own, and he, Jacob, only a figment in their minds, the lost legend of a distant uncle and absent brother to their father, just vaguely remembered. Jacob Belasko, born and nurtured at the feet of the Grand Pyrenees near varnished shores fed by sullen wind off the Mediterranean. Here his heart still beats with longing to see again the highest peak of Pico de Anito. He longs for the day when his true compatriots will be their own masters again. Sired from lineage of a proud seafaring people that once freely circumvented the globe in search of whale and schools of elusive cod, he feels in his blood the currents swirled around the keel of his ship. His earliest ancestors, the first Europeans to bring back evidence proving existence of this new world. Long before Columbus commissioned 3 Basque ships to navigate away to the East Indies, Basque seamen already in possession of maps drafted with the coast of Hispaniola. Jacob can trace his bloodline back to the once great Roman Empire, a time even before this the Basque language known then only as Euskera. A dialect that endured the reign of the great Emperor Charlemagne, lasted beyond the graves of the terrible Ottoman slaughter, and mingled in bloody vengeance through gallant crusades to restore Holy Jerusalem. These people of the Catalans and their language continue to survive through many violent storms of history, resistant to changing tides of world politics dictated by empires. The Basque soul continues to survive slaughter of nations against nations, remaining resolute even now in ruthless face of spreading colonialism. Through laws and edicts, kingdoms of good and of evil, always faithful remains the integrity of the Basque heart in the solid fortress of the Grand Pyrenees, never conquered, and without the need to conquer. In Jacob Belasko's flesh courses spirit of a nation distinct from the dust of ever-shifting principalities. So many things forgotten, so many things no longer present, all as shadows of past and future suspended on distant ocean horizons. At this junction in history, all of Europe forced to bow before the banner of the Habsburgs, a worldly kingdom made sick by insatiable appetite. All nations of the earth subjected to the same idol of material excess. Even the once proud houses of free Catalan sequestered and made subservient by the lash of this conquering overlord, constrained in the harness of a weakening self-indulgent empire already destined to eventual failure through capriciousness of gluttony. In this generation, Jacob Belasko has known no other freedom, except in dream. In this present, he lives to the wind of burning salt in his eyes and the tides of many seas in his veins. However, in the fortress of his heart, he submits to no flag and to no foreign sovereign. His true allegiance given to him by his father, bearing silent witness of a treaty signed at the ancient oak tree of Guernica Arbela, where the Basque and the Castile once met in peace to establish the first laws. Here endures memory of the Basque heart. The Basque soul made immutable in time, which no principality able to subdue. Even the thought of home seems but a distant dream, too long ago to remember. As is often the case with brothers, he and his younger sibling rarely agree on anything, growing more separate through the years. Nor was his father, when still alive, particularly religious in the ways of imposed Catholicism, his personal convictions often appearing more secular to world affairs. As for Jacob, he has become a man solitary, lacking faith. A displaced soul doomed to wander the oceans of the world, finding no rest, and no place to call home. Here on the deck of his ship, he stands master of the only destiny that means anything. In the stoicism of his heart, Jacob Belasko, a captain of the seas, preserves the statutes of greater tradition passed down from father to son through countless generations. At least, this is what he believes through grand nature of his pride. From his mother's lips whispers of another Genesis, not recorded through vines of present estate. A history disguised as bedtime stories read to Jacob and his brother when they were very young. The first story she reads is about creation of everything from nothing, and then destruction by a flood that swallows all dry land. Only one man named Noah, and his family, spared from drowning, preserved in the belly of a grand boat called an ark, along with many animals. Over time, these stories change more personal, becoming what his mother calls memories of a people that begin with a nomadic sheep herder named Abraham, to whom God speaks in a dream, commanding him to depart civilization and enter by faith into wilderness. His second-born he will name Isaac, a child of promise conceived by Abraham and his wife, Sarah, in old age. From Isaac Jacob conceived, later named Israel, meaning one who prevails with God. Through Israel are born the 12 patriarchs, which will become heads of the 12 tribes of Israel, as recorded in the Old Testament Bible used by the Church. After a sojourn of 400 years in Goshen of Egypt, another man named Moses born, raised an Egyptian, who will establish statute of the Jewish religion by delivery of austere commandments. This Moses will lead the Israelites through wilderness for 40 years by the strong hand of God to the borders of a divinely promised land. Jacob remembers to this day a painting made by his father on a piece of sail canvas depicting a severe presence with fierce eyes, parting a sea of turbulent waves with wooden staff in hand. His father produced this by commission of the local priest. Artistic ability was just one of his father's many talents. A man must learn all that he can in this world if he is to succeed, he repeats often to his two sons. And no job too great or too small, as long as you put your heart into it. Yet to Jacob's young imagination, stories read by his mother mythically more enticing. She fills the minds of Jacob and his brother with visions based on images often changing into events terrifying, tales describing righteous battles fought by angels, fierce warlords judged by stronger warlords, and miraculous deliverance against forces of overwhelming odds. Legend of a man named Samson, who slew an army of 1,000 Philistines with jawbone of an ass. Images of violent insurrections, war campaigns, and promise of Messiah to come all conjured from an anomalous black book that always she kept near. A history about judges and prophets, and one particular chronicle of a simple shepherd boy that one day reigns as king. Jacob always most admired the life of David. Often he would close his eyes and imagine him bringing down a mighty warrior giant with a single pebble. This man revered a great ruler, founder of a fabled city named Holy Jerusalem. He remembers the pain David suffers as he mourns contritely the tragic loss of Absalom, his firstborn son. His last son Solomon destined to build the first temple and rule with reputation as wisest man on earth. Jacob hears often in his mind the voice of his mother reading from this book night after night, until her two children no longer interested. All changed now to legends passed in Jacob's cosmopolitan mind, all just psalms and fairy tales read to young children before bedtime. She stops reading to her two children when they become older. Perhaps because she knows now they prefer more the company of a man and the things of the world he has to teach. Now Jacob embraces the palpable experience of his father, considering this closer to the earth he knows and understands. Passed down memories of great houses in the Catalans, ancient crossings of vast oceans by sturdily built ships in search of elusive whales and rich fishing banks near the ice sheets in straits of northern coastlines. He teaches his sons laws and history going back 1,000 years, when the Basque served no foreign invader. He instructs them on how to hunt game and effective fighting techniques. More importantly, Jacob's father teaches that the fortitude of a man rests in his own hands and the integrity of will. Jacob is still a teenager when his father dies because of an unfortunate accident. Rent by an ox on his 45th birthday while attempting to extricate one of the beast's hoof from an invisible crevice, when ordered to plow a field annexed by a despotic sovereign. Even the land of his nativity no longer his own, all now belonging to ruling authorities of the de jure separate of Lower Navarre. The church said it because he decided to work on the Sabbath. Jacob believes otherwise, resenting the imperial laws that made his father a hired sharecropper of his own land. It is the last night before Jacob departs for Bilbao to board a Spanish ship headed to South Africa, as a newly commissioned seaman first class. He and his mother have communicated little since the death of her husband. Not that he loves her less, only their two worlds seem so different now that he is a man. Just as twilight begins to descend, she invites him secretly to her room with an urgent message. Jacob, do you remember when once I read to you and your brother from the Bible each night before you slept? Yes, Jacob replies, uncertain why his mother brings this up now. I wanted you to know that there is more to this world than knowledge and religion. She then pauses, and takes a deep sigh. I wanted to tell you and your brother, but never time seemed right. The parents of your father took me in and raised me as one of their own. When I blossomed into a woman, the elder son wanted me to be his wife. I accepted because he was a good man, and with a faithful heart, a heart not unlike your heart. We were happy together. The greater happiness fulfilled when I gave birth to you and then to your brother. But you especially, Jacob, must hear the truth. Hear what truth? I am a Jew, last daughter to a rabbi father. He could trace our ancestry back to the house of David, and even beyond. Always he insisted my older sister and I learn how to read from a book called the Tanakh. In this preserved testament, the most important history ever history proclaiming existence to the God of creation. My father studied always these pages, sitting every day at the kitchen table, bobbing back and forth. It was his desire that all his children learn Hebrew. He felt it important that we remember and understand meaning of traditions passed down through many generations. A Jew Jacob trembles slightly, stunned by this revelation. Although he did not fully comprehend the meaning, the label of a Jew in these days, or any other, represents something not desirable. Expression of anti-Semitism never openly witnessed in their village, as in other places, but always it seethes below the surface. The only history in Jacob's awareness of the past being the Jewish diaspora in the reign of Queen Isabella of Spain on the eve of Columbus' voyage of discovery across the vast oceans in search of a shorter passage to the West Indies. At this time, all the Jews expelled from Spain, forced to find refuge in other lands. His mother tells him that their ancestors, some of the lucky ones, migrating into the high pastures of the Catalans to survive as Sephardic sheep herders, many forgetting the roots of their genesis, or else choosing to hide their real identity. This exodus happened 5 generations in the past, and still discrimination remains against those who openly profess their Jewish ancestry. Until just now, Jacob has never considered what being a Jew might mean in present society. All he knows is that his father is Basque, which makes him Basque. Judea and Jerusalem represent unverifiable places of religious enchantment, only figments in his mother's mind. The reality being that today the biblical land of Israel no longer exists, if ever it existed at all. It is because the grandfather you never knew a rabbi that those marauders came to our house by night and burned it to the ground. Everyone perished, and only I survived because my older sister pushed me into the vegetable cellar. I listened to the violence, to the screams of murder, the heat, and the smoke. These are my last memories before losing consciousness. When next I open my eyes, my family and my home are all gone. Now Jacob understands why his mother never truly happy, understands why always something sad and far away in her eyes. She had carried the survivor's burden secretly all her life, hiding the truth of her lineage even from a husband of almost 25 years. So why must she feel the need to share it with her eldest son on the eve before Jacob's departure? That was a long time ago. No one else needs to find out, Jacob consoles. It does matter, my son, and you need to listen to what I have to say now. I never told your father or your younger brother because for them it is of less importance. Your brother is more like your father, but you, Jacob, most like your grandfather. Pausing here, she reaches under her bed, retrieves a small coffer, and opens the lid. From within she retrieves a tattered parchment scroll written in letters of a language Jacob has never seen before now. These are scriptures from the book of Isaiah, a mighty prophet of God, she says, her eyes transfixed, as though another presence in the room. She then turns and looks deeply into the eyes of her son. No longer tender visage of his mother, no longer familiar but as a soul transfigured, reflecting from eternity. While you were still in the womb, the angel of the Lord appeared in a dream, proclaiming my firstborn child will be special, and that I am to give him another name in accordance to the promise of Scripture. Rising up early the next morning, I begin reading these few passages taken from the book of Isaiah. My eyes fasten immediately on the verse that reads, "Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign, behold a virgin will be with child and bear a son, and she will call his name Emmanuel. I named you Jacob, after your grandfather, and Emmanuel, which in Hebrew means God is with us." Again his mother pauses, takes a deep breath, tears of joy welling in her faded eyes. In this moment, she appears lovelier than Jacob can ever remember. No longer just his mother, but a woman filled with dreams and so many disappointments, a woman, whose life not always easy, this woman his mother. She calls him Emmanuel in her heart and her soul in anticipation of something better. He is Jacob Emmanuel Belasko, name given to him by his mother, a name to brand him unwillingly a Jew always, without completely understanding why. The moment I looked upon your face, I knew you chosen by God for a special purpose. You are, my son, living testament of Messiah, whose days not numbered upon the earth of men. Written in that book I read nightly to you and your brother are not just stories, as you think. All things have happened already. In course of time, the meaning will become clear. Look into the heart of your soul and see that part, which lives within me. There will come a day you will know that all I say to you now, Emmanuel, is truth of your destiny. I have kept this secret from you until now, because only now is the time right. You are a seed of Adam by will of the Father, but within dwells hope of greater promise. Believe not only in the legacy of your earthly heritage, for you also have a heavenly destiny. Keep these words of the prophet secret in your heart always and submit to salvation as a presence of hope for those the Lord will deliver by your hand. Where God leads you, remember that you stand not alone, but in company of mighty angels. Never forget you are born a son of David, the blessed offspring of Messiah. Who is this Messiah? Jacob demands stubbornly. He has come already, and you will know his meaning through measure of love, and not by will of the Father's determined pride. Then I will know him if one day sent by your God. Jacob replies superficially. There is something else, my son, she says, firmly taking his arm. Even though your brother already engaged to a girl here in our village, I have been instructed by the Spirit that this be given to you. Her other hand then reaches again into the coffer, producing what at first glance appears to be a charred turquoise-colored pendant bearing effigy of a beetle set within a frame of melted copper and brass. This is from another history long ago. Father gave it to my mother when they married, she says, placing the damaged ornament firmly into the palm of Jacob's strong hand. It is the only thing that survived the fire, the only thing left of our forgotten heritage. Jacob feels a jolt travel up his arm and into his chest, but resists the influence. He will keep this enigmatic heirloom, choosing to remain ignorant of its potential meaning. He is, after all, a young seaman commissioned by will of the grandest navy in the world and with many dreams to explore. What possible meaning in the past could be greater than promise of this present? Jacob takes the parchment scroll and the pendant, kisses his mother goodbye, never to see her again. After receiving news of her death, Jacob will study often shape of the unusual speckled greenish-blue insect carved from stone and the scroll written in an unknown foreign language. He cannot help but wonder if the two somehow connected. Nevertheless, Jacob Belasko finds little consolation in the revelation of his Jewish heritage, a heritage of which he wants no part. These many years later, he begins to feel the full weight of his bones, feeling the heaviness of centuries bearing suddenly down upon his mortal presence. His father's family name in the Old Basque tongue is a derivative of the meaning alone crow. A name well suited to this hour of his countenance and present position in the scheme of worldly affairs. He commands only half a crew because of cutbacks to the navy, mostly Spaniards, all able-bodied seamen, all serfs of the once great Spanish Empire. All subject to him, Captain Belasko, master of the seafaring galleon Libertad. Nothing else in heaven or on earth matters. He knows the principality grows weaker daily. Soon the ruling Habsburgs will lose their powerful grip on regions along many fragile borders. Only a matter of time now until the reign slips from hands of the monarchy. However, in this moment, all constellations of the civilized world made to orbit the shadow of a self-indulgent kingdom doomed to fall beneath the weight of its own excess. Jacob determines this to be his last voyage. Once this expedition over, he plans to go home and rediscover the land of his nativity. He grows tired of transporting merchandise and flesh, longs for peaceful days and nights in the fulfillment of his own desire. Yes, he feels worn out, spent to the core, his flesh a fading garment fluttering in a stiff ocean breeze. He is no longer that young man with gallant dreams and grand promises to keep. With the passage of each night, a face more skeletal peers back at him from twilight, an image only darkly familiar with eyes almost ones he knew. This moment, he sees in the reflection a man named Jacob Belasko, captain of a proud ship belonging to the world's greatest naval fleet. His assigned position made to serve as commander of a top-of-the-line Spanish galleon laden with the king's treasure on a return voyage home. This visage of solitary presence committed only to duty of greater calling. It is this captain stands unwavering on deck of his ship. A steadfast silhouette etched against the stars, as presence of the Great Pyrenees, which endures rain and wind throughout the ages. Yet within the stoic resolve, whispers the soul of another remembered from days past. One he fears already dead and forgotten. Surrounded by constellation of a southern night sky, his singular purpose is to navigate secret passages traversed by seafaring generations since earliest memory. For as long as he is captain, the Libertad, and the souls of all she holds belong to his charge.